The twin suns burned above the red skies of Varkal 7, a wild and dangerous alien world. The jungle marketplace was full of noise-shouting traders, strange smells, and colorful creatures walking on 2 or 4 legs. Among them, the alien nobles wore bright robes and shiny armor. They walked with pride and looked down at everyone else. At the center of the market, a space had cleared. No one dared to stand near the noblewoman Jara Velkar, daughter of the High House of Fangs. Her skin was dark violet, her eyes bright gold, and her long white hair moved like smoke in the hot wind. But she wasn't alone. Next to her stood a massive beast, twice her size. It had thick, scaly skin, glowing red eyes, and metal-like claws. Chains held it, but barely. The creature breathed heavy, hot air from its nose, and sharp teeth showed in its open mouth. The crowd stayed far back. Everyone was afraid. Everyone. Except one man. A human stood a few feet away from Jara. He wore old, dusty travel gear. His face was rough, sunburned, and calm. A large bag was on his back, and a broken blade hung from his side. Jara's eyes narrowed. "You there," she said loudly, pointing a sharp gold claw at him. "You walk into my presence without bowing? Do you not know who I am?" The human didn't move. The crowd gasped. One old alien vendor covered his mouth. "He doesn't know," someone whispered. Jara smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Very well, human," she said. "I shall give you a chance to learn your place." She took a step closer, her beast growling behind her. "This creature beside me," she said proudly, patting its thick neck, "has killed 10 men with one swipe. 1 word from me, and it will devour you whole." She looked him in the eyes and shouted, "Why aren't you trembling, human?" Silence. The human looked at her. His expression didn't change. He simply blinked. Then, slowly he dropped his bag to the ground. The sound echoed in the tense air. Jara's smile faded. "Are you deaf, or just stupid?" Still, the human said nothing. The beast pulled at its chain, growling louder now. Its red eyes locked onto the human. It wanted to attack. It was hungry. The crowd backed away more, fearing a bloody end. Jara raised her hand. "The signal, devour," she said coldly. The beast stepped forward. The ground trembled. 1 step, 2, but then it stopped. It sniffed the air. It turned its head slightly. Its body stiffened. Something was wrong. Jara frowned. "Attack!" she shouted. The beast growled, but it didn't move closer. Instead, it looked at the human with confusion. Its body slowly lowered to the ground. It made a strange sound, not a growl, but a whimper. Jara's mouth opened slightly. She looked at her pet, then back at the human. "What trick is this?" Finally, the human spoke. His voice was low, calm, and steady. "You think you control that thing?" he asked. "You don't even understand what it is." Jara took a step back. "How dare you speak to me like that?" The human didn't answer. Instead, he slowly walked toward the beast. The crowd screamed, thinking he would be torn apart, but nothing happened. The beast stayed still. The human stood just inches away and gently reached out his hand. The beast, this deadly monster, lowered its head and allowed him to touch it. Jara's eyes widened in disbelief. Her voice cracked. "Impossible." The human looked at her again. "I've seen things far worse than this, pet," he said. "I've walked through death worlds. I've fought monsters with no names. Your beast smells that on me. It knows." He picked up his bag, turned, and began to walk away. Jara didn't stop him. No one did. The crowd silently moved aside to let him pass. The noble woman stood frozen, her pride shattered, her control over her beast in question, for the first time in her life. She didn't feel powerful. She felt afraid. And somewhere, deep inside, something told her this human was dangerous. That night, the jungle didn't sleep. The skies above Varkal 7 turned black. lit by two pale moons. Strange bird creatures screamed. In the distance, insects the size of hands crawled under glowing leaves. It was the kind of night where only predators moved and only fools got in their way. Inside a dark stone palace at the edge of the jungle, Jorah Velkar stood alone. On her high balcony, she stared at the jungle trees below. But her mind wasn't there. It was stuck on him, that strange human, the one who didn't tremble, the one who touched her beast like it was nothing, the one who walked away like he didn't fear death. Her claws tapped against the railing. She hadn't slept. She couldn't. Her pride had been shaken in front of hundreds of people. And her beast, her mighty, loyal beast, had bowed to him. Why? Who was he really? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the lower floors. Clang, roar, scree. Jorah turned. Quickly, her heart skipped. Her beast was awake. And angry. In the underground stone cage, guards ran in every direction. Metal bars bent outward. Flames lit up the chamber as the creature roared again, louder than before. It wasn't just noise. It was searching. It paced back and forth like a hunter sniffing for its prey. But its eyes weren't wild. They were focused. Control it. One guard shouted. But the beast didn't care. It wanted the human. Jorah stormed into the holding chamber. What's happening? She demanded. One guard fell to his knees. Mistress, it won't obey. It's acting strange. It keeps turning toward the west, toward the jungle. Jorah narrowed her eyes. The human. She walked slowly toward the beast's cage. It saw her, but it didn't growl like it used to. It didn't lower its head in fear. Instead, it backed away. As if she was the stranger now. Jorah's throat tightened. Something inside her felt small, wrong. Why are you acting like this? She whispered. The beast gave a soft grunt. It turned again, nose pointing west toward the path where the human had walked. Jorah clenched her fists. This couldn't be happening. This was her beast. Her family raised it from birth. Her blood claimed it. But now it listened to him. In the jungle, under the thick trees, Reed sat by a small fire. His eyes were half closed, and he held a sharp blade in one hand, not because he needed it, but because it kept old memories from returning. He wasn't afraid of this planet. Not anymore. He had survived far worse. He whispered softly to the wind, a language no human on Earth remembered. A rustle came from the trees behind him. He didn't look back. I know you're there, he said calmly. Silence. Then a creature stepped forward, not the beast, but a small scout drone, with the symbol of Jorah's house. She had sent spies. Of course she had. Reed crushed the drone. In one hand, he stood up, looked toward the distant palace, and sighed. They never learn, he said. Back in the palace, Jorah sat on her throne, but her face showed no pride now. Only frustration. She turned to her advisor. Find out everything about that human. Name, ship, history. I want to know what planet he came from and what monsters followed him. The advisor nodded quickly and ran out. Jorah looked out the window. Her beast still paced in its cage, restless, lost. Like something inside it had changed forever. And deep in her chest, Jorah felt something new. A quiet, creeping feeling she had never known before. Doubt. The storm began without warning. Black clouds rolled across the twin moons, and cold winds rushed through the jungle trees. The leaves trembled like they were afraid of something coming. Animals fled into their holes. Even the sky seemed to hold its breath, but Reed, the human, didn't move. He sat under a broken stone arch, ancient ruins half swallowed by vines, watching the fire crackle. He wasn't afraid of storms. He had lived through worse. Much worse. Back in the alien palace, Jorah Velkar stood before a glowing screen, arms crossed, eyes fixed. Her advisor had returned, holding a small black cube of data. I found something, he said, voice shaky. Show me. The cube hummed and suddenly, a file opened. It showed Reed's face younger, bloodier, eyes still the same, but the place behind him was hell. Where is this? Jura asked, frowning. The advisor gulped. A planet called Kale-9, also known as the Grave World. Jura's eyes narrowed. No one survives Kale-9. That's the thing, the advisor said, voice low. He didn't just survive. He was there, alone. For over a year. She stared at the screen. In the image, Reed stood surrounded by burning trees, dead monsters, and smoke. In his hand was a broken metal spear. His arm was torn. Blood ran down his face, but he was still standing. Jura whispered, "What kind of human lives through that?" The advisor didn't answer, because the answer was terrifying. Out in the jungle, rain began to fall. It hissed against the fire. But Reed stayed dry under the arch. His fingers traced strange marks carved into the stone's old symbols. Not human. Not alien. Something older. He remembered this language. He had seen it carved in bone on Kale-9. Memories came flooding back. Too fast. Too sharp. The screaming of beasts in the dark. The feel of his friend's body going cold. The whispering voices. In that cave that shouldn't have existed. He shut his eyes. He didn't want to remember, but something inside him said he had to. Jura's voice echoed in her grand hall. "Bring him to me." The guards looked at each other. "Alive?" one asked. Jura looked toward her beast, still restless in its cage. "Alive," she said. "I want to see him in the eye when I learn the truth." Night passed slowly. At dawn, they found Reed. He didn't run. He was sitting on a rock, sharpening his blade. The guards came in with blasters aimed. "You will come with us," Reed stood slowly. "Lead the way." In the palace throne room, Jura sat tall, trying to look powerful, but her heart beat faster than it should. Reed was brought before her, his hands unchained, his face calm. She waited a moment, then said, "You survived Kale-9. Why were you there?" He looked around the hall. "You already know the answer." She leaned forward. "Tell me anyway." Reed stepped closer. The guards moved, but Jura raised her hand. "Let him speak," he said. "I was sent with a team. Scientists, soldiers. We thought the planet was dead," she whispered. "It wasn't." Reed nodded. "It was alive and it wanted to eat us all." Silence filled the hall. He continued, voice low. "We were hunted by creatures that lived in shadows. Beasts that had no name, no eyes, and no mercy. I watched them kill my friends one by one. And you lived?" "No," he said. "I survived. That's different." Jura stared at him. "And the beast? Mine? Why does it fear you?" Reed looked toward the cage, "Because it smells what I've seen. The fear I've buried, the death that still clings to me." He looked back at her. "Your beast knows what you don't." Jura's voice was barely a whisper now. "And what is that?" Reed took one step closer, eyes locked on hers. "I'm the real monster." Power is easy to believe in until it refuses to answer you. Jura Velkar stood in front of the cage. Again, the beast, her most loyal weapon, her pride, her fearsome pet, just stared at her. Its red eyes were different now. No longer wild. No longer angry, just distant. Detached. She raised her voice. "I said roar." "Nothing." She clenched her jaw. "Obey me." Still nothing. It didn't growl. It didn't move. It didn't even blink. It was like she wasn't there at all. The beast had always obeyed. Since it was a pup. Since her father gifted it to her on the Day of Blood. It had killed on her command, crushed enemies without mercy, and silenced doubters with its roar. But now, it was silent, and that silence was louder than any growl. Her assistant entered quietly behind her. "My lady, I must tell you something." Jura didn't turn. "Speak." "We found the humans' camp in the jungle." She finally turned her head. "And? He's gone. Left before dawn." "But..." He hesitated. We found something. Strange. He handed her a small stone tablet, flat, old, covered in markings. She narrowed her eyes. What is this? We translated it. It's from Kale 9, that cursed world again. It says, he who walks with monsters cannot be caged by chains. Jorah's hand trembled. He left it behind on purpose, the assistant whispered. Like a message. The beast let out a low growl, not at her, but toward the window, the direction of the jungle, the direction of him. Jorah snapped. Open the cage. The guards flinched. My lady? I said open it. The heavy doors unlocked. Steam hissed. Chains dropped. The guards backed away in fear as the beast stepped out and walked right past Jorah. She reached out a hand to stop it, but it didn't stop. Didn't even look at her. It walked calmly, silently, toward the palace door, toward the jungle, toward Reed. Jorah stood frozen. This was worse than defeat. This was abandonment. Her world, the carefully crafted illusion of fear, control, and obedience, had begun to crack the moment that human refused to bow. Now it was shattering. She had been raised to believe fear made her strong, but the human didn't fear her. And now, neither did her beast. Outside the palace walls, under the Kulh's walls. Wide gray sky. Reed stood on a cliff, overlooking the glowing jungle below. His coat flapped in the wind. His blade hung on his back. His face was calm, but his eyes were scanning the path behind him. He could feel it. It was coming. Sure enough, within moments, trees moved. A heavy shape emerged from the jungle, scales glinting in the sun. The beast. Reed didn't flinch. He simply stepped aside and let it come closer. The beast bowed its massive head. He placed a hand on it gently. No fear, no force. Just understanding. Jorah stood behind him now. She had followed it. Alone. No guards. No armor. No crown. Just her pride. And her questions. You stole it from me, she said. Reed didn't turn. No, I didn't steal anything. It chose. She stepped forward. I raised it. I fed it. I bled for it. It was mine. Reed looked over his shoulder at her. His voice was soft but sharp. No living thing belongs to anyone. Jorah's mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time in her life, she realized maybe he was right. They stood in silence. Beast, human, alien. The wind howled through the trees, and deep inside, Jorah felt something strange. Not anger, not fear, but something smaller. A crack. In her armor. In her belief. In her entire world. Power attracts attention, and when it slips, every vulture in the sky begins to circle. Jorah Velkar returned to her palace alone. Her beast had not followed. Neither had the human. The guards bowed as she passed, but their eyes didn't hold the same fear anymore. They watched her now the way prey watches a wounded predator. Carefully. Quietly. Waiting for blood. In the grand hall, her inner circle stood waiting. Noble cousins, political allies, and cold-faced advisors. Their voices dropped to whispers the moment she entered. Jorah stood tall, chin high. Speak freely. I know what you've heard. Her cousin Lord Telvok stepped forward. His smile was polite. His tone was poison. We've heard troubling rumors, cousin. She raised an eyebrow. Do rumors scare you? They do when they come from your beast's mouth, he said, smiling. Or rather, from a beast that now follows a human instead of you. The crowd tensed. Jorah didn't blink. The creature is still loyal to me. Is that so? Telvok said. Then where is it now? Silence. That silence was enough. Enough to make eyes narrow. Enough to shift power in the room. She could feel it, the weight of doubt pressing down on her. And doubt, in this palace, was deadly. That night, Jorah sat in her private chamber, still dressed in battle robes, her claws twitching. She stared at the old family blade hanging on the wall. For the first time in years, she wasn't sure if she was safe. Far away, In a hidden jungle cave, Reed sat with his back against the stone wall, cleaning his blade. The beast lay beside him, calm as a sleeping wolf. He wasn't resting. He was listening. The night jungle had its own voice. And tonight, it sounded wrong. The birds were quiet. The trees too still. Trouble was coming. He stood up slowly and whispered to the beast. "She's in danger." At the palace, Jorah finally stood to go to bed, but the lights suddenly went out. A loud snap echoed through the room. Then a scream, not hers, one of her guards. Outside, Jorah grabbed her dagger and rushed toward the hall. Bodies lay on the ground. Her elite guards slain. Shadows moved at the far end. Dark cloaks. Blades in hand. Assassins. Her own blood had sent them. She ran. Through halls she once ruled. Doors she once owned. Now, hunted like a thief in her own home. She made it too. The secret escape tunnel, breathing hard. The hidden door slid open with her palm print. She entered and found something unexpected. Reed standing there, waiting. With the beast behind him. She stared at him in shock. "How?" "I told you," he said, pulling her inside, closing the stone door behind them. "They never learn." They ran together through the underground tunnel. Her pride burned, but her legs didn't stop. "Why are you helping me?" she demanded. Reed didn't look at her. "Because I've seen this before. Once the power breaks, the knives come out." Jorah swallowed hard. It was true, and it was happening now. When they reached the edge of the jungle, the moons were rising. Jorah dropped to her knees, breathing heavy. Her royal robes were torn. Her hand shook. She had never looked so human before. She looked up at Reed. "I don't understand you." "That's fine," he said. "I don't need your trust." "But you saved me." "I didn't do it for you." She blinked. "Then, for who?" Reed looked at the beast, then at her. "For what's coming next." Far away, in the high tower of the palace, Lord Telvok poured himself a drink. He looked out the window, where smoke still rose from broken towers. He smiled. "The throne is ready." The jungle didn't care about Queens. It didn't bow to royal blood or respond to sharp commands. Out here, there were no thrones, only teeth. And survival. Jara Velkar, once feared in her palace halls, now sat beside a fire she didn't build, near a beast she no longer controlled. And next to a man she still didn't understand. She looked nothing like a noblewoman anymore. Her long white hair was tangled. Her once glowing clothes were torn. Her claws were dirty. And for the first time in her life she was listening. Across from her, Reed tossed dry leaves onto the fire. The flames crackled softly, lighting his weathered face. "You still think power means control," he said quietly. Jorah frowned. "Isn't it?" Reed shook his head. "No, real power is when others follow you, even when you have nothing left. No crown, no army, no beast, just you." She was silent. She had nothing left. And yet, here this human sat, strong as ever. He didn't need a title to be feared. He didn't need armor to be respected. He had something else. Presence. The beast lay nearby, watching both of them. It had followed them through jungle, battle, and fire. Not because it was trained, because it chose to. Jorah finally asked the question that had burned in her for days. "Why does it listen to you?" Reed looked at the beast. "I don't force it to." Jorah didn't speak. She didn't know how to argue with that. That night, while Reed slept with one eye open, Jorah sat alone by the fire, staring at her reflection in a pool of water. For the first time, she didn't recognize herself. Not the warrior. Not the noble. Just a woman who had built her life on fear and now saw how hollow it was. Her claws trembled. She whispered, "What have I become?" And the jungle answered with silence. Morning came fast. Smoke rose from the far side of the valley. Zhara stood beside Reed, looking across the hills. "Telvok is making his move," Reed said. "He'll try to kill us both. she replied. Reed nodded. He'll fail, Jara turned to him. Not if we go alone. He raised a brow. What are you saying? I know the path. The secret tunnels, the old codes. She paused, then added something no one expected from her. Let me help you. Reed stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. And just like that, the shift happened. She wasn't above him anymore. He wasn't below her. They were partners. Later, they walked through forgotten paths under the trees. Jara showed him symbols carved into stone signs only royal blood could read. Reed listened, learning. Jara led, without demanding. For the first time, she gave guidance without expecting obedience. It felt strange, but not wrong. That night near a waterfall, Reed told her a story. About Kale-9. About the monsters that hunted in total silence. About how he buried his friends one by one. And about the day he realized he didn't survive because he was stronger. He survived because he let go of everything he thought made him strong. Fear is a heavy thing, he said, and I chose to drop it. Jara looked at him quietly. Then, in a soft voice, she asked something she never imagined she would. Can you teach me? Reed smiled, not a smirk, not a joke, a real smile. Yeah, he said. I can. The jungle roared behind them, but ahead, the palace of House Velkar stood in total silence. Its gates were closed. Its guards, her guards, stood in position, but their eyes no longer showed loyalty. Only fear and confusion, because walking toward them was a woman they thought was finished, and beside her, the human they still couldn't understand, and behind them, the beast, walking freely. Step by step. No chains. No commands. Just choice. Jara wore no crown. No armor. Only the truth in her eyes. She had returned not to rule by fear, but to face the storm she had created. The gates opened slowly. Inside, Lord Telvok stood with smug pride on the steps of her throne. Around him were dozens of nobles and mercenaries. I see the jungle didn't eat you after all, Telvok said. Jara didn't answer. She kept walking forward until she stood at the base of the throne she once ruled. Telvok laughed. What? Now? You expect me to step aside just because you showed up with your pet and your pet human? Reed said nothing. He didn't need to, because the beast was moving, and all eyes followed it. The crowd whispered. Some backed away. Telvok raised his voice, trying to sound bold. You think this beast frightens me? You think this man scares me? I have command, I have armies. I have Veya. Suddenly the beast let out a low, deep growl. Telvok froze. He looked at Jara. Control it. Jara said nothing. He turned to Reed. Call it off. Reed didn't move. He just said, loud enough for all to hear, it doesn't belong to her. And it never belonged to me. It only follows who it chooses. The beast stepped forward, slow and silent. Then it looked between the two of them. Reed. Jara. Then it turned to Telvok and roared. The sound shook the pillars. Windows cracked. Nobles screamed and ran. Telvok dropped to the ground, covering his head. Stop! Jara took one slow step forward. You built your power on fear, she said. But fear always breaks. She looked down at him, this man who once whispered behind her back, now crying in the open. She didn't strike him. She didn't need to. He was already defeated. Later, the throne room was quiet. Jara sat not on the throne but on the steps below it. Reed stood beside her, arms crossed, beast calm behind him. One of the younger nobles approached, trembling. My lady, what happens now? Jara looked at the crowd. What was left of it? Old enemies. Broken allies. New eyes, all waiting. She stood slowly and said loud and clear, no more chains. Not for beasts, not for people, not for herself. Outside, the skies over Varkal 7 opened. Rain fell. But this time, it didn't wash away blood. It cleaned what was left behind. That night, Around a fire under the stars, Reed tossed a stick toward the beast. It didn't chase it. Too proud. He chuckled. Still doesn't listen to me. Jura smiled faintly beside him. Maybe that's the point. He looked at her. She looked different, now. Lighter. Stronger. Not in muscle, but in something deeper. She met his eyes and said, You never wanted power, did you? Reed shook his head. I just wanted to survive. She looked at the fire, then at the stars. I think, now I want to live. The beast lay beside them, head down, at peace. And for the first time, no one cared whose it was, because it had chosen, and so had they.